But behind the trophies and bright lights, there's a darker side, and today we're counting down the moments tennis wishes you'd forget. Jeff Tarango walks out, wife slaps umpire, but that was just the start. Wimbledon, 1995. The lawns are supposed to be sacred, polite, and perfect, but on court 13, American Jeff Tarango loses his cool in a way tennis had never seen. Playing Germany's Alexander Mronz, Tarango grows furious at umpire Bruno Ribea's calls. He suddenly screams, "You are the most corrupt official in the game!" The crowd boos. Instead of calming down, Tarango shocks everyone, he packs his bag and walks off the court mid-match. That alone is scandal. But minutes later, in the players' area, his wife Benedicte takes matters into her own hands. She slaps the umpire hard. Newspapers the next day scream, "Wimbledon shame." Tarango is fined, suspended, and banned from Wimbledon the following year. This meltdown pushed the ATP and ITF to tighten default rules. Walking out now comes with severe fines and suspensions. Tarango's tantrum became tennis's cautionary tale. But if one man's rage left grass courts shaking, what happens when the very integrity of matches themselves is questioned? Match fixing runs deep in tennis, and the secrets keep getting darker. It starts in whispers on the lower circuits, odd betting patterns, suspicious retirements. By 2007, Italian police uncover a massive fixing network. Big names like Nikolay Davydenko face investigation, the Tennis Integrity Unit is created, and by 2018, a BuzzFeed divided by BBC report reveals hundreds of matches flagged as suspicious. The numbers are staggering. In 2017 alone, 241 matches were marked for irregular betting. Lower-ranked players, some earning less than $20,000 a year, become easy targets for crime syndicates offering bribes to lose a set or throw a game. Italian player Daniele Bracciali is banned for life. In Austria, Daniel Koellerer gets the same fate. Even higher-level matches in Grand Slams draw suspicion. Tennis, unlike team sports, is fragile. One player, one decision, an easy fix. The scandal stains the sport's image, making fans question, was that double fault nerves or money? And if shady deals corrupted the sport's core, the next story shows chaos erupting right in the open under the brightest lights. Nick Kyrgios melts down, fined $800K, yet his chaos wasn't the worst. Enter Nick Kyrgios, the Australian firebrand. In 2014, at just 19, he shocks Rafael Nadal at Wimbledon with fearless shot-making. Overnight, he becomes a star. But fame comes with fury. Kyrgios tanks matches, smashing rackets and swearing at umpires. Against Stan Wawrinka in 2015, he taunts, "Kokyanakis banged your girlfriend," a line that earns global headlines. At the 2019 Cincinnati Masters, he spits toward the umpire and smashes 2 rackets in the tunnel, racking up fines of $113,000 in one tournament. Across his career, he's fined over $800,000, the highest in tennis history. Crowds are divided, some boo, others pack arenas just to see what chaos he'll unleash next. The ATP eventually introduces stricter code of conduct enforcement and even expands mental health support, acknowledging the strain behind Kyrgios' outbursts. His unpredictability makes him magnetic but also dangerous. Every serve could be a tweener, winner, or another scandal. But if Kyrgios burned tennis with fire, what happened to the Williams sisters in California was colder, crueler, and lasted over a decade. Williams sisters booed at Indian Wells, and the backlash lasted 14 years. March 2001, Indian Wells, California. Venus Williams withdraws moments before her semifinal against Serena due to injury. The crowd suspects foul play, whispering that the sisters and father Richard Williams are fixing matches. 2 days later, Serena faces Kim Clijsters in the final. What follows shocks the sport. As Serena walks onto court, 16,000 fans erupt in boos. The jeering continues during points. Richard Williams later claims he heard racial slurs hurled at his daughters from the stands. Serena, just 19, fights through the hostility and wins the title, but she's in tears. The fallout is severe. Both Serena and Venus vow never to return. For 14 years, from 2001 to 2015, Indian Wells missed its biggest stars. The boycott only ended when Serena, after reflection, returned in 2015 to applause and tears. It wasn't just a tournament scandal, it was a brutal reminder of racism's grip on tennis. And if the Williams sisters' pain stretched over years, Martina Hingis' scandal detonated in a single drug test. Martina Hingis busted for cocaine. But wait until you hear the next fall. By 2007, Martina Hingis is already a legend. 5 Grand Slam titles, world number 1 at 16, the youngest in history. But then comes Wimbledon. A routine drug test reveals traces of cocaine. Hingis denies everything. She insists she's never knowingly taken drugs, but the evidence is enough. She's handed a 2-year ban. Instead of fighting, she shocks fans. She retires on the spot at just 27. The scandal tarnishes the image of the Swiss Miss, once seen as the sport's child prodigy. Sponsors drop away. Headlines brand her as another fallen idol. Only years later does she stage a comeback in doubles, adding more titles, but the shadow of 2007 never fully disappears. The cocaine case rattled tennis, showing that even stars once seen as pure and untouchable could fall hard. And if Hingis's downfall was chemical, Gabriela Sabatini's fear was something darker, flesh and blood, stalking her from the stands. Sabatini stalked after Seles attack, and security gaps got even scarier. 1993 wasn't just the year Monica Seles was stabbed. Days later, Argentina's Gabriela Sabatini, one of the sport's most beloved figures, with 27 career titles, found herself cornered by a stalker. A man obsessed with Sabatini attempted to rush her in Hamburg. Another later broke into her home in Switzerland. These incidents followed directly after the Seles attack, making it horrifyingly clear tennis had no real security. Players were vulnerable, stadiums allowed fans close enough to touch athletes, personal lives were barely protected. Sabatini herself spoke of the constant fear, saying she could never feel safe at tournaments again. The WTA and ATP scrambled to respond, bringing in guards, restricting fan access, and redesigning player walkways. But for Sabatini, the damage was done. She became more private, more guarded, and her career, though successful, never felt untouched again. And if Sabatini's fear showed how unsafe players were, David Nalbandian would show how dangerous players themselves could become in a single reckless moment. Nalbandian kicks a linesman bloody, but one incident cut even deeper. Queen's Club, 2012. David Nalbandian, former Wimbledon finalist, faces Marin Cilic in the final. Frustrated after losing serve, he storms to the advertising board at the side of the court and lashes out with his foot. His kick splinters the wooden hoarding, but here's the horror. A sharp edge slashes directly into the linesman's shin. Blood pours down his leg. The official winces in pain as the crowd gasps. Within seconds, the chair umpire announces the shocking decision: Nalbandian is defaulted from the final. Prize money gone, ranking points gone, reputation gone. This wasn't a minor tantrum. It was the first time in modern memory that a player had injured an official mid-match. The ATP cracked down hard, stressing zero tolerance for violence. Nalbandian, once ranked world number 3 with 11 titles, never recovered his image. He retired only a year later. If Nalbandian's rage was brutal, the next fall would sting even deeper. Marcelo Rios arrested for assault, from world number 1 to infamy. Marcelo Rios, the fiery Chilean left-hander, made history in 1998 when he became the first Latin American man to reach world number 1. Nicknamed El Chino, he was adored for his silky shot-making, effortless movement, and the flair that made him one of the most naturally gifted players of his generation. But as his ranking rose, so did his reputation for volatility and eventually notoriety. Rios developed a long track record of clashes with officials, journalists, and even ball kids. His temper was never far from boiling over. In 2001, scandal erupted when he was accused of assaulting his wife, a story that dominated Chilean headlines and shattered his image as a national hero. Years later, in 2011, he was arrested after allegedly threatening and attacking a taxi driver in Santiago. The mugshot of the former number 1 stunned the sporting world. What should have been a legacy defined by artistry became overshadowed by chaos and disgrace. Marcelo Rios proved that no matter how much talent you have, rage and recklessness can turn glory into infamy. Agassi admits meth use in 1997, but his confession wasn't the only bomb. Andre Agassi, the Las Vegas Kid, wasn't just a star. He was a phenomenon: 8 Grand Slam titles, a career Golden Slam, and one of the most beloved athletes of the 1,990 seconds. His rebel image, long hair, neon clothes, denim shorts, redefined tennis. But in 2009, his autobiography Open detonated like a bomb. Inside, Agassi admits that in 1997, during a career slump, he used crystal meth with a friend nicknamed Slim. He failed a drug test, but here's the twist: he wrote to the ATP claiming it was an accident, that he spilled his friend's drink. The ATP accepted it, and the case quietly disappeared. Fans were stunned. Meth? Covered up? Agassi, the man kids idolized, had hidden one of tennis's darkest secrets. Critics called it hypocrisy. Supporters praised his honesty for finally confessing. Incredibly, Agassi came back stronger, winning the 1,999 French Open and completing the career Grand Slam. But the revelation showed tennis wasn't as clean as it wanted the world to believe. If Agassi's meth use stayed hidden for years, Vitas Gerulaitis' tragedy left no cover, just grief, sudden and final. Vitas Gerulaitis dies at 40, and tennis would bury more heroes too soon. Vitas Gerulaitis was tennis's disco king. With long, blonde hair, charm, and a 1,977 Australian Open title, he was as famous in Studio 54 as on center court. He won 25 career titles, reached 2 other Slam finals, and once joked after finally beating Jimmy Connors, "Nobody beats Vitas Gerulaitis 17 times in a row." But in September 1994, the tennis world woke up to tragedy. Gerulaitis, only 40 years old, was found dead in a friend's pool house in New York. The cause? Carbon monoxide poisoning from a faulty heating system. It was accidental, silent, and devastating. The shock rippled through the sport. This wasn't scandal or shame, but sudden loss. A vibrant personality, a man who lived fast and loved the game, gone overnight. His death also raised awareness of carbon monoxide dangers in the US. If Vitas's passing showed how fragile life is, the next story showed how brutal tennis itself could become, stretching the human body beyond reason. Isner vs. Mahut 11-hour match, but endless pain took a darker form later. Wimbledon, 2010. John Isner and Nicholas Mahut step onto court 18 for a first-round match. No one knows they're about to play the longest tennis match in history. It starts on the 22nd of June and refuses to end. Day 1 stops for darkness at 59 inches, the 5th set. The next day, they return. By the time Isner finally wins 70-68, the match has lasted 11 hours and 5 minutes over 3 days, with 183 games played. Isner alone hits 113 aces. The crowd cheers history, but doctors and experts worry. Both men leave utterly broken. Mahut spends days barely able to walk, and Isner loses his next match in under 75 minutes. The marathon forces tennis to reconsider endless scoring. By 2019, Wimbledon introduces a final set tiebreak at 12-12. It was epic, yes, but also a warning. Pushing athletes to this extreme borders on cruelty. And if endless rallies drained players' bodies, the next story drained an icon's entire fortune. Arantxa Sanchez Vicario lost $60 and tennis saw more lives collapse. Arantxa Sanchez Vicario, Spain's Barcelona Bumblebee, won 4 Grand Slam singles titles and was world number 1 in 1995. She earned an estimated $60 million during her career in prize money and endorsements. She was beloved for her relentless fighting spirit, darting around clay like a warrior. But in 2012, headlines shocked fans. Sanchez Vicario was bankrupt. She accused her own parents and ex-husband of mismanaging her fortune. Lawyers claimed she owed millions in unpaid taxes. Years of court battles followed, tarnishing the image of one of Spain's greatest athletes. From riches to ruin, her downfall showed how vulnerable tennis stars can be once the spotlight fades. Financial mismanagement, betrayals, and bad choices haunt many ex-champions, but Sanchez Vicario's fall was the starkest. It was proof that even legends can lose everything. James Blake slammed by police. Yet another superstar's fall was closer. September 2015, New York City. James Blake, former world number 4, winner of 10 ATP titles, and one of the sport's most respected figures, stands outside his hotel waiting for a car to take him to the US Open. In seconds, everything changes. A plainclothes NYPD officer rushes him, slams him to the pavement, and cuffs him. Blake hadn't resisted, he hadn't even moved. The police thought he was a suspect in a credit card scam. He wasn't. They had the wrong man. Blake, stunned, later describes feeling humiliated, angry, and scared. The video goes public, sparking outrage and fueling debates over racial profiling. The officer faced disciplinary action, but Blake's dignity was scarred. This wasn't a tantrum or a scandal, it was tennis colliding with real-world injustice. Blake's ordeal became a global story, reminding fans that even stars can be vulnerable. And if police brutality hit Blake outside the court, Djokovic's disaster would unfold inside the lines on the sport's biggest stage. Djokovic hits judge, defaulted US Open, but worse violence came before. US Open 2020. Novak Djokovic is unbeaten, chasing his 18th slam. But in a 4th-round match against Pablo Carreño Busta, frustration boils over. Djokovic loses serve, angrily swats a ball toward the back fence. It strikes a line judge in the throat. She collapses. The stadium falls silent. Officials rush to her aid. Minutes later, Djokovic is defaulted, ejected from the tournament. prize money forfeited. Ranking points gone. It's not the first angry ball strike in history, but this one involved the world #1 live on global television. Djokovic apologizes, calling it accidental, but admits the responsibility is his. The default shocked fans but also sparked questions. Was tennis too lenient with star players until disaster struck? Djokovic would recover, winning more slams, but the image of him pleading with officials that day remains unforgettable. The next story shows darkness striking from within the body of a champion suddenly breaking down. Marion Bartoli retires sick at 41 kilograms, but the most brutal attack was next. July 2013, Center Court, Wimbledon. Marion Bartoli achieves her dream. She defeats Sabine Lisicki to win her first and only Grand Slam title. France celebrates its new champion, but just 6 weeks later, she shocks the tennis world. She's retiring, aged only 28. At first, fans assume injury or burnout. Then, the truth emerges. Bartoli's body begins wasting away. She drops to just 41 kilograms, 90 pounds, hospitalized for viral infections, and what she describes as a mysterious illness. Photos of her looking frail, skeletal, devastate fans who had watched her climb to glory. Rumors swirl about eating disorders, but Bartoli insists it was illness, not vanity. By 2016, she admits, "Doctors told me one more match could kill me." Years later, after recovering, she makes a brief comeback attempt, but the darkness of her near-death collapse lingers. Her story shows that even triumph can mask fragility. But if Bartoli's suffering came from within, the next scandal came from deliberate betrayal rigging the very sport itself. Bernard Tomic tanking scandal. And the ATP finally draws a line. Australian Bernard Tomic was once touted as a future Grand Slam champion, but by 2017, his career had spiraled into controversy. At Wimbledon that year, Tomic played Germany's Mischa Zverev in the first round and appeared to barely try. He made half-hearted swings, showed no effort to chase shots, and afterward admitted in press he was bored and not motivated. The backlash was immediate. Fans booed, commentators slammed his behavior, and sponsors dropped him. Head, his racket sponsor, cut ties within 24 hours, saying his comments were unacceptable. The ATP fined him $15,000 for unsportsmanlike conduct, one of the heaviest penalties at the time for tanking. But worse than money was his reputation. Instead of being remembered for his talent, Tomic became tennis's poster child for wasted potential and apathy. He later claimed he played only for money, further souring public opinion. His implosion forced tennis to confront a harsh truth. Unlike other sports, a single player giving up on court ruins the contest entirely. Tomic's scandal made the ATP strengthen rules around lack of effort, setting an example that coasting through matches would no longer be tolerated. And if giving up on effort poisoned the contest itself, the next moment brought real violence onto the court. Monica Seles stabbed on court at 19. But darkness didn't stop there. Hamburg, the 30th of April, 1993. Monica Seles, world #1, 9-time Grand Slam champion, and just 19 years old, sits during a changeover. Suddenly, a man lunges from the crowd. A 9-inch kitchen knife plunges into her back. She screams, collapses. The arena freezes. The attacker, later revealed as a fan of rival Steffi Graf, is arrested instantly. Miraculously, the wound misses Seles's spine by millimeters. Physically, she recovers in months. Psychologically, the scar never fades. She disappears from tennis for more than 2 years. When she returns in 1995, she wins the Australian Open, but many believe she was never the same. Before the attack, she had won 8 slams in 33 months, a pace even Serena never matched. The incident forced tennis to revolutionize security. Stricter barriers, guards, player escorts, yet the attacker received only probation, walking free, a ruling that enraged fans. Seles's stabbing remains the darkest on-court moment in tennis history. But even before that wound healed, Serena Williams would create her own unforgettable eruption that forced tennis to confront its limits. Serena Williams threatens line judge in 2009, and tennis cracks down hard. The 12th of September, 2009, US Open semifinal. Serena Williams, already a 10-time Grand Slam champion, faces Kim Clijsters under the lights of Arthur Ashe Stadium. At 15:30, serving to stay in the match, she's called for a foot fault. The timing couldn't be worse. Serena erupts. She storms toward the line judge, racket shaking, shouting, "I swear to God, I'll shove this ball down your throat!" The crowd gasps. The judge reports the threat. Serena is docked a point which, because it's match point, ends the contest instantly. Clijsters advances. Serena is fined $82,500, the largest fine ever given to a female tennis player at the time, and placed on probation for 2 years. The fallout is immense. Commentators debate whether her reaction was rage, intimidation, or just the heat of the moment. The WTA and ITF respond by tightening rules around verbal abuse, intimidation, and default procedures. It was one of Serena's darkest nights, but also a pivotal moment in how tennis polices behavior. And if Serena's fury rocked the sport, the very next scandal shattered tennis's global image altogether. Sharapova's doping scandal explodes in 2016, and tennis's image collapses. Maria Sharapova was tennis's global face. A Wimbledon champion at 17 inches 2004, she went on to win 5 Grand Slams, earn over $38 million in prize money, and become the highest-paid female athlete for 11 straight years. She was the poster child of Nike, Porsche, and Tag Heuer. Then the 7th of March 2016. At a packed press conference in Los Angeles, Sharapova announces she tested positive for meldonium at the Australian Open. The drug had been added to the banned list just weeks earlier. She claims she'd taken it legally for years to treat health issues, but the oversight costs her everything. The ITF hands her a 2-year ban, later reduced to 15 months. Nike, Tag Heuer, and other sponsors cut ties immediately. Global headlines scream betrayal. Fans are split. Was it a careless mistake or calculated cheating? When she returned in 2017, her aura was gone. Though she battled, Sharapova never reached another Slam final. Her scandal wasn't just personal, it dragged tennis's reputation into the mud, proving even its brightest star could fall. And that's our journey through tennis's darkest chapters, scandals, heartbreaks, and shocks that shaped the sport. Subscribe now and tap the next video to uncover even more untold stories.